One. And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Thursday morning's OTB AM. We're just talking about some Russian music to introduce John Duggan, who is our man in Russia for the duration of the World Cup. And we can't come up with anything particularly good or interesting.
No, because maybe this isn't any reflection to our Russian friends that they aren't good or interesting people. They are very good and very interesting people.
How many Russian friends do you have?
Plenty of them. Plenty of online friends and all that.
Hey.
Are
you buying a wife?
Yeah, exactly. There isn't exactly...
Had a wife.
It doesn't replicate itself in the musical terms. That's all we're saying here this morning. That we are struggling. We are thinking. We are flirting with the idea of Tchaikovsky.
They were Russian, weren't they?
Were Tattoo Russian?
I think so, weren't they?
Right. Okay. Well, there you go.
I just said Tattoo. Tommy, come on. Welcome to 10 seconds ago. There's a delay in the producer's head.
Yeah, that was a pretty poor kind of production moment right there when, you know, the show wasn't even being listened to. But yeah, Tattoo, Tommy, is who we're talking about. I didn't know they were Russian. I knew they were some sort of... I knew we shared them in the Union somewhere.
What was their thing? What was the song? What did they do? Do you remember any Tattoo? I just remember they had a band. They were a thing.
Is it all the things they said? Yeah.
I think she said.
That's what I just said. I vaguely remember that song. So that could be perfect for John Duggan. Who knows? Maybe he's a Tattoo fan. I was thinking more kind of Swan Lake myself. I thought he'd be more of a classy man. Given he was sitting right in front of the Bolshoi yesterday when we did World Cup Daily, you would have thought that would be more apt. But no, I'm happy to go with Tattoo if you are.
They're not like the Russian dancing where they do the thing and then they break the glasses and everybody gets pissed. There's a sound to that music.
Yeah, would it be replicated in Kalinka?
Is that what that is?
Well, that's their notorious kind of not a national anthem, but a national show of voice, which is intense. It is intense. It would have the desired effect of kind of giving a Russian feel to the show.
Oh, the Red Army Choir stuff. That's Kalinka, is it?
Yeah.
Is Kalinka the name of a song?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, now you're making me doubt myself.
No, you're right. That, according to my quick search on YouTube, which of course you're all on youtube.com/off the ball. But okay, so we've got a very busy show for you. Alan Quinlan is in, I want to say Sydney, which is where the second test is. Melbourne. He's in Melbourne where the second test is. I hope. And we're going to talk to him a little bit later on about a pretty interesting Ireland team. No Sean Cronin, no Jacob Stockdale in the starting 15. No Sean Cronin, no Jacob Stockdale in the 23. I mean, Stockdale not making the 23 probably isn't that much of a surprise given that you want a bit more versatility on the bench. But Sean Cronin must be feeling a little bit of the clammy hand of what do I need to do around here? Because he didn't start last week and he's not even on the bench this week. So we'll get Quinny's thoughts on that. We'll also talk to him about the Australian team. It's an unchanged team for Michael Cheika. A little bit later on, we'll talk with Joe Malloy as well. Today is the start of the US Open. Roy McIlroy says he's in the best shape of his life and his game is exactly where he wants it to be.
It might be.
I mean, I hope so, but stop talking about this stuff and show us what you're going to do. So what else we got coming up? John Duggan in Moscow. We got rugby with Alan Quinlan and the US Open. Of course, we're going to talk about all the stories in the newspapers today as well. But before we get going, World Cup Daily is our brand new show brought to you every day at around about 12:30 by none other than Owen Sheehan and friends and an assorted motley crew of good guests and opinion formers. And every day we're going to be talking about the main news from the World Cup. Obviously, yesterday there was only one story to talk about.
Yeah, it was a bizarre start to our World Cup Daily show. It was perfect. It was as Spain kind of looked over at us longingly and they were like, you know what that new show needs? It needs an earth-shattering pre-World Cup story. And Spain delivered in fine form. Hierro in as manager, Lopetegui out as manager. And is it a crisis? Well, we don't really know. We'll know on Friday night.
Yeah, there's no way around it. When your players are thinking about like a new manager? Okay, it's Hierro. That's all right. As opposed to, who's going to pick up Ronaldo? Well, obviously Ramos is going to pick up Ronaldo. Are you going to kill him? Don't think I'm allowed to kill him. I'm not really going to be allowed to kill him. Especially because the manager's the manager. That would have been a bit interesting, wouldn't it? Now he's not.
Well, if he'd killed the manager?
No, if he'd killed Ronaldo.
Oh, sorry, right, okay. I thought that would have been a rather sinister turn to the Lopetegui affair at Spain.
I mean, metaphorically, obviously.
This is who would have actually listened to Julian Lopetegui anyway, really? I know he had managed 20 games and had lost none of them and had really gained a reputation of being quite a good international manager. But the large egos of these Real Madrid and Barcelona players probably would have dictated that they're like, screw Lopetegui, he'll dictate who starts and we'll do what we want. We look after Ronaldo, we know how to take care of that guy. And that was that. So it's basically just a different guy standing on the touchline, no?
I mean, but very possibly, given the quality of player and the age profile of the player, that might be the case. But apparently there were some tactical nuances that he'd introduced. I have watched not enough of Spain to be able to tell you the difference between pre and post Lopetegui and what Hierro is going to be able to do in the very short space of time. But they've got such great players that, like, maybe transforming how they play isn't that hard, and maybe all that work is already done, has been done on the training pitch anyway, and they're going to go out and do it. And Hierro's like, yeah, we're going to pick the same team that Lopetegui would have picked anyway. Or maybe Hierro comes in and goes, right, this is my chance. I've got like 15 days to establish myself as the best manager in world football.
Or, yeah, by doing nothing at all, because they would have been my pre-tournament favourites until 24 hours ago, Spain, and that's changed dramatically. I was very surprised, obviously before shit hit the fan over the last 24 hours, that they weren't installed as tournament favourites by more bookmakers, that Brazil and quite often Germany have stolen a march on them in that regard, that they seem to be third favourites. Which all Hierro has to do, taking that into account, is just sit back and just enjoy the ride. Just let them go out there. Let Sergio Ramos be your manager on the pitch. Just let him do all the legwork. And suddenly Hierro will be deemed a genius. How he managed to steer a sinking ship back to winning the World Cup, when in actual fact the ship may not have been sinking whatsoever. It might have just been a little bit of jealousy from the upper echelons of the Spanish Football Federation towards Julian Lopetegui. Florentino Perez has kind of sitting back in his chair, stroking his cat like an evil Bond villain, just viewing the panorama of kind of discontent that he's tried to create. And it's worked perfectly in terms of optics, that we all think they're in crisis, but in actual fact, they're probably going to go out and win the World Cup.
There is also the possibility that the unveiling of Lopetegui as the Real Madrid manager is going to take place in the next 24 hours. They're just going to go, what World Cup? I don't care. This guy's got a job to do, and he works for us. He's our man. Now, that would be one of the most arrogant, egotistical things that you've ever seen in world sport. And I kind of want to see it. Especially
because he's got nothing to do right now at Real Madrid, or at the World Cup, except for Gareth Bale. It'll just be awkward pictures of Julian Lopetegui and Gareth Bale kind of meandering around.
Yeah, you're for sale, Gareth.
Yeah, the Madrid dressing rooms. And, you know, who's going to be the guy that takes Lopetegui around? It's probably going to be Gareth Bale. Welcome to our football club.
Oh, this is your office, this is your locker. It's the tea lady. She does great Danish on a Thursday.
He could become teacher's pet immediately.
Well, maybe this is his window of opportunity. He's like, I'm in the best shape of my life. And that other chump wouldn't pick me, but you're a genius.
Sorry, Julian, our tour just has to be postponed for one moment. I need to do my 20 sit-ups right now. Julian Lopetegui watches them do 20 sit-ups and then he goes to show him his office. And then another 20 after he shows them the next room and that. So that's the interesting dynamic here, the Gareth Bale and Julian Lopetegui home alone dynamic.
Spain are 13-2 at Boyle Sports. 9-2 is the price around Germany, and Brazil are 4-1. France are 6, Argentina are 9, Belgium are 11, and then England are 16-1.
So Spain are 15-2. What did he say?
13-2.
13-2. So
a bit better than sixes.
France are third favourites at the moment.
They're both 13-2. Spain and France joint third favourites.
See, that's an amazing price on Spain right there, just because of a manager who,
it's the biggest crisis that any team has suffered.
Perceived crisis. We don't know how much crisis they're going to be in until Friday. And sure, I could be completely wrong about this, and they could drift out further.
This does come down to what's the value of a manager. Maybe we have completely overrated managers in international football in recent years. You look at, say, Louis van Gaal's Dutch team, who played such great football in Rio, and then you look at Louis van Gaal's Manchester United team, who he has every day, and who he can pick the players, and they play such shit football, and you think maybe managers are less important than we think.
Yeah, the best degree you can have as an international football manager is a HR degree, I think. If you understand how your squad kind of interacts with one another and you can keep them all just relatively happy.
Aren't football people a little suspicious of people who have degrees? They're like...
I'm not sure if that's the case in international football management. Are you not supposed to be a bureaucratic yes man to be an international football manager? Is that not criteria number 1 and criteria number 2?
I just remember Brian McClare and Pat Nevin being viewed quite suspiciously by their football peers because they had an education. It was like, well, something's not quite right with those two.
Okay, well maybe when I said he needed a HR degree, I wasn't being fully serious when I said that. But understanding the whole idea of humans and how they interact as a unit.
Being a good man manager, I get it, yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't actually mean that you need to have a third level degree to be a good international football manager. As you rightly outline, the opposite could be the case. But all you got to do is just keep people happy. And maybe this is a great opportunity for Hierro to say, listen, screw Lopetegui anyway. I trust in you guys. Sergio Ramos, you're the new manager.
Football show coming up at around about 12:30 in association with Boyle Sports. Some great offers on offtheball.com/Boyle Sports, particularly a brilliant a goal to be scored in Portugal and Spain. 25-1 is the introductory offer there. You can stick €1 on that and win €25 if there's a goal in that game on Friday night. Now, Leon's going to be in with some other tips as well around about 12:30. One of the other things you're doing on the show today is your first opening game World Cup memory. The first one from...
Kind of,
the 2002 World Cup isn't the first World Cup you remember, is it?
2002 it is, yeah.
Really? Like legit?
No, it is, yeah. It is. I don't really remember even.
What age were you?
8. Should I remember 98?
I don't know. I mean...
I was 7, really. No, 3.
So you were 3? No.
Way too young. But like I vaguely remember the kind of chaos that France had been beaten in the first game. I don't remember watching the game. I think it must have happened while I was at school or something. I don't remember watching that game, but I do remember the aftermath.
Which?
France-Senegal in 2002.
Okay.
Like just thinking to myself, wow, these are actual humans who can be beaten by anybody. When France Argentina were pre-tournament favourites in 2002, but France were well thought of. And just even kind of watching that game back in the years gone by after that, just the array of options they had.
Is this El Hadji Diouf?
El Hadji Diouf was man of the match. I was Bouba Diop who scored. Obviously Barthez fumbles the ball and Diop scores.
I don't really remember that at all.
Like just the array of options that France had that year, and still without Zinedine Zidane in those first 2 games as the fulcrum of that team, they collapse. And was he fully fit for that third game when they get hammered by Denmark, wasn't it? It was pathetic without Zidane. It was. That being said, like David Trezeguet hits the post in the opening half an hour or something with an unbelievable move against
Why
Senegal.
are Japan and Korea not in an opening game?
Because it was the winners back then.
Right.
The reason, correct me if I'm wrong, there's somebody out there might know the answer to this, but it started off as the hosts playing the first game, and then come 86, when Mexico hosted for the second time.
They weren't supposed to be in it, or?
No,
what?
They said, all right, we played the opening game in 70, wasn't it, the previous time Mexico hosted it. We played the opening game in 1970, so we're going to change it up now, and we're going to let somebody else play the opening game. We're going to let
That's Germany?
We're going to let the reigning...
Italians.
Yeah, we're going to let the reigning champions. And that was Italy against Bulgaria, 1-1. So they changed it at that occasion. And then after that, it became just the winners played the opening game until 2006.
Do you know the result of every opening game, or is it just that one that you know the result of?
I would know for the last 30 or so. Like I have Wikipedia it, believe it or not. We're going to chat about it on World Cup Daily later on. I think the people at home deserve for me to know what.
But you remember the results of the Wikipedia as opposed to, that's on Wikipedia, I don't need to know that. So the 1970 World Cup, what was the opening fixture?
I don't know that far back. I do know, however, 1966, 1970, 1974, 1978 were all 0-0 draws. And then, so, you know, there could be something in that with regards to tonight.
So 82?
82, I don't recall. I have that stored away somewhere. I'll have it for 12:30.
Argentina versus somebody?
80.
Oh, no, Spain versus somebody. Argentina versus somebody. Spain versus somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. Spain versus somebody. So, yeah, because 86 is when it changes for the first time, that it's like, oh, let the reigning champions play first. And that was the case all the way through till 2006 when Germany kind of rip up the script and they're like, we've got the Allianz Arena to show off. We're not going to let somebody else play there except for Germany.
Cameroon beat Argentina in 1990. I remember that.
I was actually,
we were in the Gaeltacht.
And they allowed you to watch it?
Yeah. Because Ireland were in the World Cup, so we got to watch everything that was happening. We were home by the time of the Italy game, but watched the penalty shootout down there, I'm pretty sure. I remember more about like the Colombia team, and they're a pretty interesting team. That game, I remember a good bit because Maradona was playing, obviously kind of wanted Argentina to win, but also a team getting beaten by another team who are complete outsiders is like, wow. And also the violence. I don't know if you've seen...
Cameroon game?
Yeah, there's footage of Kanije running through and just getting completely hacked down.
I was watching Jimmy Greaves' analysis of that last night, and he said, I think the game was actually refereed poorly. I didn't think many people deserve to be sent off in that game. In fact, the only reason I think that there were so many red cards is because the Cameroons can't tackle properly. I was like, there we go. Finally, at long last in 1990, the mould got broken when you didn't actually just deem the countries that you'd never watched play football before, deemed them to be poor tacklers of the ball. But the Caniggia thing was absolutely remarkable because, maybe I'm just tarring everything with one brush here, but 1990 felt like the dawn of diving, where simulation finally became en vogue when...
He got kicked up in the air!
No, but the point I'm trying to make is that because they were trailing 1-0, Caniggia doesn't go down at any point in that run, whereas he's like hurling them, he's like, shit, we need a goal, it's 86 minutes gone here. Yeah. And then finally the last one where his boot goes flying into the air with the violence with which he's attacked. So I would have thought that he would have gone down at least one of those hurdles if it was still 0-0 or had they been 1-0 up. But it was, that would certainly go down as the most remarkable opening day game, I would contend.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Time for the papers.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
We are going to start with the Irish Independent this morning, and we can bring that back page up there. Play the All-Ireland hurling final after the football. I feel I am right where I want to be, says Rory McIlroy, and Sexton returns as Schmidt calls in big guns. So play the All-Ireland hurling final after the football. This is according to the Leinster Council CEO Michael Reynolds. He reckons that it's not the worst idea of all time to reorder things. We can't have any sacred cows anymore is the standout line for me. It's that we need to look at things and make changes accordingly. This year, because there's a visiting dignitary coming, there's going to be an extra week. So actually you should have the All-Ireland football final the last week of August according to the current schedule, and that's the end of the GAA season. Obviously the camogie and the women's football are the following 2 weeks after that. He's making the point that why not just push the hurling back a week, give everybody the opportunity to have that promoted even more, because it's very condensed and hurling kind of falls off the radar really quickly after the round robin stage. What do you think? I think
why does every single conversation about hurling versus football why does it always have to become a hurling versus football conversation? Why can't the current schedule just be tried out for a little while and see what you remember from this championship before we make some sort of call like this as to the fact that hurling is sitting in football's shadow? Why is there such an inferiority complex around the hurling championship structure? We've just witnessed some of the best hurling we've seen in terms of a compressed schedule, and the reason why it was so good is because it was relentless. It was week after week after week. We properly got to know for the first time really the ins and outs of how a team in Munster or a team in Leinster set up. Well, mostly a team in Munster because they were all televised in full, but we properly got a feel, kind of like we do with Premier League teams, like we do with World Cup teams, how these teams exist in a short period of time, the day-to-day schedules of them, the week-to-week matches, and that was really important and that was fantastic. But ultimately, football has been lying in hurling's shadow, and there's little to no complaints about that. There's been the most complaints about that has been, the games haven't been televised, the football games. And to be fair, that's completely fair enough, because the hurling games have been better on paper from the outset as they actually have been in hindsight. So I don't understand why we suddenly have to sit down and say, well, hurling is going to be back in football's shadow for the next couple of weeks. Let it sit in football's shadow during the Super 8s. I mean, there's going to be a weekend where the Super 8s does clash with the All-Ireland hurling quarterfinals. I wouldn't be surprised if the broadcasters pick the hurling over the football on that Sunday, because you're going to have the All-Ireland hurling quarterfinals clashing with 4 Super 8 games on the same weekend. Who's to say that the football is going to get precedence over hurling that weekend? I'm not so sure that's going to be the case. The All-Ireland hurling semi-finals have a weekend to themselves. The All-Ireland hurling final has a weekend to themselves. The only thing that might suffer from a hurling perspective is the preliminary quarterfinals might not be shown in full on national television. But that's going to be the McDonagh Cup finalists against somebody, which is going to be a one-way street in terms of a contest. So I disagree with the fact that they're going to be played out in football's shadow somehow, just because there's less games.
It's more about the time, is that we've had all these games, we've had the ability to talk about hurling for ages, and then all of a sudden there's really nothing but football except this kind of windows of the semis and finals, the quarterfinals. Let's wait and see how interesting the quarterfinals are this year.
Well, except for this weekend, when everybody will be watching Clare Limerick and then potentially watching the same counties again, or whoever it might be, in a Munster final, and then we'll obviously all be watching the Leinster final as well.
Will we all be watching that?
Kenny Galway. Who's not going to show Kilkenny Galway? If that's. I
mean, you hope they show them. I'm sure they will. I'm sure it's not up against anything. But there's a gap of 3 weeks from the last Leinster game to that and then it seems the spacing is random from this point forward, as opposed to we've thought this out. And he's making the point that you could actually make this be the end of the season, and not the worst idea, stretch into the first weekend of September.
Yeah, like there's some of the things he says there, like there should be no sacred cows anymore. I think that's a fair point. I think that's true, and I think the sooner the GAA realise that, the better. But and also the spacing thing is a fair point as well. I just don't think complaining about hurling's problems and using football as the gauge with which to judge hurling is always the case. And why?
But I don't think that's the case here, really. It's more just that the hurling final being the last big event of the inter-county season will actually help promote the game. That's his case. And look, I think that in the middle of the season where everybody's busking along here, kind of going, well, do I have an opinion on this? Yeah, I probably do. Maybe we could try this.
Like, just one last thing I'll say on it. Why can't the game be promoted as the penultimate game of the GAA season? Why does it have to be the last thing? Why does it have to be, we've all been building up to this all summer. Now this is the pinnacle of our national game. So what if it's the second last game of the season? Who cares? It's probably going to be a great game anyway. Like, why does the timing of it matter?
Why does it not matter, though? I guess is the point. Like have these conversations rather than say, okay, the football has to come last because it's always come last.
Well, because the way the structure is, the Super 8s are a bit later. Like that might be as a result of randomness in the structure, but that is the way it is currently. I don't think it's being diminished.
Basically, you're a football Nazi who thinks that these hurling folk should shut up. That's what I'm hearing.
If I see the hurling championship start a month after the football championship, then fair enough, go play your final later.
Screw hurling is what you're saying.
Well, it's reverse hurling snobbery.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to
We'll
push
get you
here.
in on the Stapo show on Friday and you can have it out. To the Times Online, the Times Ireland rather, Schmidt will shuffle pack for next test. We'll bring you that team in full a little bit later on when we speak with Alan Quinlan, but the big news is that Gary Ringrose is back in, that we have Keith Earls has been named to start the team. Andrew Conway is on the wing, so it's Earls, Conway and Carney, the back three. Robbie Henshaw keeps his place. Gary Ringrose is in, Bundy Aki is out of the squad entirely, and Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton start, but Cooney starts on the bench, so Marmion has been dropped. Spain chaos after sacking their coach. I guess we're trying to work out just how much chaos is involved when you sack your coach 24 hours out from the start of the World Cup and 48 hours from playing Portugal in your opening game. So next we're going to the Irish Times. The Irish Times here is no winners as Spain become victims of managerial fiasco. I guess Real Madrid are kind of winners in that they have asserted their big dog status.
Yeah, because they really needed to assert their big dog status.
Well, screw you, Spain. I mean, there was always this pretense that we're the bulk suppliers to the Spanish national team, who we didn't give a shit about really when we were winning all those European Cups. And then Barcelona got good and won a European Championships and a World Cup, and we were like, yeah, okay, it's important that we have a few players there, but not too many.
But now they've returned to being the bulk supplier. This is the first time in I don't know how long that Real Madrid have got more Barcelona players in the squad. So I don't think that's really going through Perez's head.
Maybe they're like, yeah, no, I don't care about that.
Like, they are the biggest club in the biggest faction of the international
And now they're
game.
the biggest team, even bigger than the World Cup.
I know, it's sad, isn't it? It's really sad.
One of the things in the that's doing the rounds is a clip of Lopetegui. He's being asked questions. They're at a press conference last week, being asked questions about Zidane leaving, and here like, bloody hell, it's the World Cup. Stop asking questions about this.
Yeah.
And then obviously he got a phone call going, oh yeah, I'll happily talk about it. You want me to take? Yeah, no problems. I'll take Zidane's job.
It is remarkable.
It's only the World Cup. Don't worry about it.
It's a competition that's going to turn over $6 billion in profits for FIFA over the next couple of weeks. And yet Real Madrid, just with a click of a fingers, were like, you're still minnows in comparison to us. In comparison to one club, a $6 billion tournament that's going to be turned over in the space of 3 weeks just gets turned over that quickly.
Just a little Twitter exchange about the first World Cup. The opening game, first one that I remember was 1990, at Digger_forum, aka Fucked Hypocrisy. 1990 was the worst World Cup in recent times. Wasn't that the last tournament before the back pass was outlawed? And then Michael Foley of the Sunday Times, not the wrestler, says, I recorded every goal of that tournament. Lots of room for episodes of home and away at the end of the tape. It was unconscionable rubbish. That's why it was such a happy time for Irish football. You know, passing the ball back to Packy was a tactic. And then Packy hoofing it up to our twin towers of Niall Quinn and Tony Cascarino.
It's the way to do it. I mean, we should return to those.
Can we go back to that? Can we go back to that? Wouldn't that be good? The Cameroon lads kicking lumps out of Canija in the San Siro in 1990. Was it the San Siro? I didn't even know that.
San Siro, yeah. It was. It was where kind of the world got a little bit more edgy. Even the opening ceremony.
Was it? Italian 90 lads, Cameroon versus Argentina. Cameroon win, but Canadian running with the ball. One Cameroon player tries to take him out. Half does it, but stumbles along, carries on to the next Cameroon player, cleans him out. Sent off. Class game, says James Gill. What was the opening ceremony?
It was, so where were we in '86? Mexico. So Mexico was like the first time where they have like exotic dancers dancing in the opening ceremony, and the whole world is like, wow, so football is sexy. And then they do that in Italy as well, and then after that it kind of goes down a downward spiral to the point in '98 where, I'm not sure if you recall, but the opening ceremony is essentially the Teletubbies. It's essentially just weird
French
dancers dressed up in kind of very wild colours and dancing to crap music, and even their dance moves, even though I couldn't be a judge of dancing, was visibly terrible. And it was just at one point where '86 and '90 were like, this is the fashion capital of the world, this is Milan right here, and we're going to be exotic, and we're going to be attractive to everybody around the world. And very quickly it just kind of spiraled down to a rabbit hole of nothingness. Although Diana Ross missing a penalty in '94 was probably...
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate, that's perfect.
That was peak opening ceremony, and after that it's all been crap. Teletubbies in '98 and...
We didn't even talk about the fact that America, I mean, it's a treble bid between America, Canada and Mexico, but all the games are in the US, and there's 10 in Canada and 10 in Mexico, but all the other games, which
80
is like
of them, 60 of them, sorry.
Yeah, are all in the USA. It will be a brilliant World Cup.
It's going to be vast. It's going to be absolutely vast. It's going to the 16 groups of 3. Which, if my maths is correct, that is the 48 teams.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be, just as I say, it's going to be incredible. The whole idea of a festival atmosphere of football is something that's often touted with this, and with the Euros in 2020 and all that sort of stuff. Then again, it is the year 2018, and we're in the biggest country in the world for the World Cup, despite the fact that it's all kind of focused on the European side of the country. So I don't think it's going to be too noticeable. I don't think you kind of get a nationwide feel that every single street you walk down in Russia is going to be like packed with party atmosphere. It's just the cities where the games are on. So it's like, if Morocco had won that yesterday, that would have been a story today. That would have been a great story. It's like FIFA do it again.
Could get behind a World Cup in Morocco. So next is the Examiner. Spain Saipan. Hierro asked to unite factions after Lopetegui axed. And then they have an embargoed story in the bottom right, but that actually is that Ronan O'Gara is staying put. He is sticking around for another year in New Zealand. He signed a deal that's going to take him through to 2019. It is an Examiner exclusive. Tony Lean has the story. Obviously, Ronan O'Gara writes a column for them, so he's broken the news with them there. And with a good team, you don't have to be the head coach to have a productive relationship with a group of players. This is not a stepping stone club. The Crusaders is a really good place to be. So that's Ronan O'Gara sticking around with Crusaders for the 2019 Super Rugby season. And you'd think at that point he'd be ready to come home. So
yeah, it's kind of finishing his nursery of teaching. Like, I wonder, is there any kind of vibe of how he's getting on down there, other than the obvious that this is clearly a very good stamp of approval?
So 2019 is going to be the end of the World Cup, right? And Joe Schmidt goes back to New Zealand. At that point, Leinster once again are forced to hand over their coaching ticket team of Leo Cullen and Stuart Lancaster. And at that point, come on down, Ronan O'Gara, and you can be the Leinster coach. And you can have Joey Carberry. Boom. I like the look of that.
Is there any point in me even entertaining that?
I mean, what are you talking about? Entertaining it.
Like the
best club job in World Rugby.
Classic Leinster, just depending on the output of Munster once again. The expertise and coaching of Ronan O'Gara. Once again, the life support machine for Leinster Rugby.
You can stick to your 10-man South African stuff down there, and we'll have Raj inspiring the greatest backline of the world.
Well, Andy Farrell's going to be the next Ireland coach, and nobody will have to move, and Raj can just go directly into the Ireland setup.
Okay, so after the Examiner, we're doing the Racing Post. We've got that very quickly for you. Racing Post is Eclipse mission next for Massar, and here we go. Spain drift to 7-1 for World Cup with caretaker manager at the helm. Maybe that's the best bet of all time. Maybe they're going to pull a Denmark 1992, a little bit of pre-tournament bullshit, and it's like, well, who cares? Let's just go and have crack. Maybe that's what's about to happen.
I think it is. I'm definitely getting on that 13-2, 7-1, whatever odds I'm going to get on that. Will I move on to the Herald? On the back page of this is Leash Fear dub goals. Boss Sugar plans to stop blue wave that hit Longford and Hierro to bravely lead Spain is the story there. On the back of the Mirror, we've got a timeline on Stephen Cluxton's injury. Dublin's Clux out. All-Ireland champions lose skipper Stephen for 4 weeks after late McGivney hit on keeper takes toll. You've got Spanish and Meltdown, and also Burke's off for €350,000. That's Shamrock Rovers pocketing 350 grand for Graham Burke. He is off to Preston North End. On the back page of the Irish Daily Star, it is Spain in the neck. Furious Chiefs give Lop chop. It's El Gasico as well, which is what they're describing this, I presume, to do with Gazprom or, the vast gas network in Russia. And Myler no to Rangers. It's an exclusive here. David Myler resisted overtures by Stephen Gerrard to sign him for Rangers before he joined Reading. On the back page of the Sun, it's holding out for a Hierro. Xavi blasts Spain, sacking chaos. Give him L, says Xavi. Connolly will cost you dear. Stars $30,000 US offer. Dublin star Diarmuid Connolly is believed to have been offered 30 grand plus bonuses to play Gaelic football in the USA this summer. That's an exclusive by the Sun. But sources have been unable to confirm whether the deal has been accepted or not. You've also got Greg Cunningham joining Cardiff and Graham Burke's story there joining Preston North End. And then a couple of the UK papers. Game on, says the back of The Guardian. Hosts hope to defy expectations as Russia 2018 kicks off. And then finally, it's a Daily Telegraph. It's a very happy Harry Kane and a very happy Gareth Southgate. Now win the real one, Harry. England welcome party is on the inside there. 16 pages of World Cup coverage, they say. And I'm not sure what that is. I haven't actually seen this. This is like Gareth Southgate holding a plate of sandwiches or something, or cake. But they've had a World Cup party for everybody in England. We get it, England. You're having a good time. Everybody's happy. Everybody's friends. There's no cliques. We get it. You can stop over-egging this. We get it. Everybody's happy.
Oh, what's that music in the background? Is this Russian or is it Italian or Greek? Is it Greek? Is it Greek Orthodox?
See, this is the problem with Russian music. What really is Russian music?
Oh yeah, I get it now. Yeah, that sounds right. We're getting it. We're making a connection. We're making a connection all the way to Red Square. Good morning, John Duggan.
Good morning, guys. Dobro Utra from Russia. I'll raise you your papers with this paper, the Metro I got this morning.
Can you read it for us, or what?
No, I can't read it for you guys. It's in Cyrillic. So I think it's Igor Akinfeev. If you might be able to see it on the front cover. I'm in Red Square here right now, and fans right in front of me, and I'm looking, guys, at the countdown clock. 7 hours, 42 minutes, and 0 seconds to the start of the greatest show on earth, the World Cup 2018. 32 days, 32 teams, 64 games. Let's bring it on, folks.
What's it like? Do the general run-of-the-mill Muscovites care about this tournament? Have they tuned in? Are they aware of what's going on?
I think they are, obviously, and I think today will be a huge day for them. I think today will determine a lot of their interest in the World Cup. The fact that 81,000 fans will be at the Luzhniki Stadium, most of them Russian for the Saudi Arabia game, which starts at 6 o'clock local time. That's 4 o'clock Irish time, and that will really determine in terms of their interest for the tournament. So there's a lot of hope, but in terms of realism, they're the 70th team in the world. They're the lowest ranked team in the tournament, and they haven't been out of a group stage since the Soviet Union collapsed. So that's a little bit of a worry. The good thing for them is that they're playing Saudi Arabia, probably one of the worst teams in the competition. Only took, I think, 13 from 19 points in qualifying, and we're not good on the road, Saudi Arabia. So I think if Russia could have chosen the draw they would have had for this World Cup with Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Uruguay, they would have picked it. So I think a lot will depend on how they get on today and how that'll give them any kind of momentum that they need for the Egypt and Uruguay games.
Yeah, okay. What is Moscow life like so far?
It's like any other global city in the world, lads. That's what I think it's like. You have your normal shops, your normal boulevards, your normal sites. I mean, everything is pretty located around the centre here in terms of Red Square, the Kremlin, the Bolshoi Theatre, which you saw me at yesterday. The metro is exceptional. It's pretty unvarnished. It's pretty hurtles really fast. It's very loud, but there's a metro literally every minute. And then you got those idiosyncratic, beautiful designs. It's like a ballroom architecture in some of the metros with Lenin and Stalin and lighting. So it's a fascinating. But it's not like the Bourne Identity, guys. It's not this kind of grim, smoky, smoggy place with people who are cold and that. It's just like any other normal city in the world. So you can read, you can see as much as you want to see in terms of the way Russia's being portrayed, but like everywhere in the world, people just want to put their best foot forward and get on with things. And I was in Brazil for both the Olympics and the World Cup the last time, and with all these things, like circuses, you come in, the circus comes into town, it's a global carnival, and then the circus leaves the town. And I think it's up to the organisers, as in terms of the host country, to make it as good as an experience for everybody who's here. And I think Russia are a little bit on the defensive, obviously with all the publicity that's been around them, probably a lot of it justified in the last few years. So I think their kind of attitude is, we're going to show you folks that we can put on the greatest show on earth, like any other city or any other country.
The born identity thing, I would kind of have been appealed by the whole born identity element, but we'll forget that. That's okay. The Bolshevik hat, John, have you purchased one of your Bolshevik hats yet? He promised you'd wear one for us today.
I have purchased the Bolshevik hat, and I'm putting it on right now. So there we go.
There we go. I'm happy now.
I don't know if I can ask you for your papers or anything like that. But I got it yesterday in a market at Is. So that was interesting. So that was a good thing to do. So you can get one in Red Square. You're probably paying about €100, and I got mine for about €20. So it's it was a good thing, you know.
That is class. That, like, all of your entire career has been leading to this one moment. I'm very jealous right now.
Well, thanks, guys, and I respect the privilege of being able to be here. You know, so it all leads up to this. It all leads up to the greatest show on earth, and being in Russia, and obviously all the other places we're going to go over the next few weeks. Nizhny Novgorod to see England play, Kazan to see the quarterfinals, St. Petersburg as well. So we get through it unscathed, we'll be doing well. And I think obviously we remember ourselves growing up 1990. Those of us lucky to remember Italia 1994, the Giant Stadium, and the way the country was split in 2002 with Roy Keane. That the World Cup, there's nothing bigger than the World Cup. I know that people might be a bit turned off by the fact that Ireland are not in it, but I think once it starts, people will get carried away by the beauty of what the international game kind of means, because club football has been really a little bit turned into a franchise model without any kind of moorings or kind of character and roots, because like a lot of teams can effectively purchase success. But for someone like Lionel Messi, who's turning up a World Cup, probably his last chance to win a World Cup, he's never won it. He's lost 3 finals in a row. This is what it's all about. But are they going to win it? Probably not. You know?
Yeah, I think you're dead right. And I think as well that actually a lot of people started to tune in as soon as the Spanish fiasco happened. Which fans are in the background there?
We have Colombians and I think Tunisians. So I might be able to just bring my camera around to see the background.
Oh yeah, that's class. Randomly bumping into groups of fans at the World Cup is one of the best parts about it, and then just that exchange and melange of cultures, which is one of the downsides about the fact that it's not going to be in one country after Qatar, that it's going to be spread out across these giant continents. Like there's swings and roundabouts about that. You don't really get that opportunity for everybody to come and be in Milan or Lyon or Leipzig as you would have had for any of the European ones, but I guess that's just the way it goes. Was there much registering yesterday of the news that we now know exactly where the World Cup is going to be in 2026?
It was pretty clear, but I think it was pretty obvious what was going to happen with the vote. I mean, I think the fact that USA, Mexico and Canada could provide, obviously, infrastructure and money, they're the two things that matter. And Morocco, I think we're always up against it. And I think that counted the vote when they lost, over 2-1. So much registering here? No. I think the Spanish issue is a bigger, juicier story and a massive story, because I think at this stage it's about small margins with Brazil, France, Germany and Spain. We get to the quarterfinal, semi-final stage, and is the fact that the pedigree is gone going to make a difference in terms of a negative way for Spain? Possibly so. So I think the Spanish thing is a bigger issue. In terms of a football story, I think the USA thing was pretty much a given. It was just a bit of a rubber stamp or something that, you know. But yeah, it's a carnival. I was here the other night, Colombians, Peruvians, Uruguayans, and in terms of the next few days here, we've Argentina, Iceland here on Saturday. We've got Germany, Mexico here on Sunday. So everybody will be coming in and then travelling around. And you know, for a lot of people, it's their lifetime. They got their credit unions in Colombia and Uruguay just like anywhere else. So they've made the trip to Russia and they're giving it a shot and they're going to have fun. Why not?
What's the food like?
Well, I'm a bit of a weird eater. I eat like a 5-year-old mainly. So I'm kind of a chicken nuggets and chips guy. So straying from that is kind of difficult. So I've been checking into kind of posh hotels and having eggs Benedict, and I've been kind of going to Irish pubs and eating steak and chips. So I'm sure over the next few weeks I will, I think Georgian cuisine is really big here, as opposed to Russian cuisine. Georgian cuisine and Georgian food is kind of thing. So I think as time goes on, I will, become a little bit more adventurous. But at the moment, with the madness of the last few days and trying to get settled in, you're just trying to not get sick. And you're just trying to have, what is the steak and chips? Eat the steak and chips. And food is just a thing that you just do. It's more important to buy a Bolshevik hat than to actually eat food.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, then something that definitely I hope you have tried is the Russian vodka in Russia. Does it taste is it like Spanish wine in Spain? Is it a little bit better?
Guys, I'm too determined to do a great job for Off the Ball to be drinking vodka, which costs less than a $5.
Oh, well, you've got to try it for us. We need to know. If we're going to live vicariously, it has to do this properly.
Okay. Well, that's a good carte blanche, Jared, from you and Owen. But yeah, I couldn't believe when I was at the supermarket. I should have taken a photo. I will take a photo and send it back. That you got whatever milk is this, or Heineken is this, or whatever, or cheese or whatever, and then you got vodka, loads of it, like half a litre for under a $5. And I was kind of going, this is just madness.
Right, what's going to happen tonight? I was chatting with Nathan about this. He thinks Saudi Arabia at 8 or 9 to 1 is a fantastic bet. I'm like, there's never been an opening fixture in world sport that I'm more confident the home team are going to win, given, just how things work in certain parts of the world.
We talk about referees here. I think it's an Argentinian referee, but I think the fans are going to be huge. I think there'll be a huge fan element to this. Like, this is probably the biggest game in Luzhniki since, I don't know, whether soccer here in 1980. I know that the Olympics were here in 1980, but probably the biggest game here since the Champions League final in 2008 when Man United played Chelsea. So I can just see the fans being that 12th man for Russia. And I think they're playing probably the weakest team in the competition. So maybe Nathan's research is better than mine, but I can just see the wave of momentum. And if Russia can't get ignited by this wave of momentum, and you've got the likes of Miranchuk and Smolov to maybe make a difference in terms of the attack, then they can forget about it and leave the tournament to the rest of us.
If I was a Russian football supporter, John, I'd be really disappointed heading into this game, because you've had a number of years to get your act together, get your house in order, maybe not enough time to develop a whole new youth academy, but certainly a hell of a lot more time to do something better with your international team. Better than being the lowest ranked team in the tournament, given the billions you've actually spent on hosting the tournament. And it just seems that it's going to be a letdown, given the group they've got. They're going to struggle to get out of it, although we wouldn't be surprised, as we've already said, if they did manage to get out of this group. That it just seems things are going to fall a little bit flat for the genuine Russian football fan over the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
I think that, we had Adair was the winning scorer, I think, for Lokomotiv Moscow in the Russian Premier League season, and he's not even in the Portugal squad. The fact that they're bringing Sergei Ignashevich back into the team, he's 39 the day before the final, probably the most decorated player. That's not a good sign that they're bringing him back after he retired. They've had two centre-backs that are being injured. Stanislas Cherchishov, the manager, is only pretty new to the job. So, Yuri Zhirkov will play, and, he was good at Chelsea at one stage, but that's a pretty long time ago now. So, Korokin, I think it is, the playmaker, is injured. So, yeah, obviously it's a development issue, and that's. I mean, they got the World Cup in December 2010. So they've had enough time, as you say, Owen, to get their house in order, and the house is definitely not in order if they're bringing the likes of Ignashevich back into the team.
Yeah, he's expected to start, I think, tonight, actually, given the injury woes. Like, when you look at Saudi Arabia, and I know, like, the odds at 8 or 9 to 1 does suggest how much of an uphill challenge this is, but Pizzi has really got them a little bit more confident, you'd suspect, than the way they were down in the doldrums previously, and kind of narrow losses to Germany and Italy in the warm-up games does give hope for somebody who is getting on those outrageous odds.
I'd be a little bit worried, though, of the stability around Saudi Arabia. I mean, Bert van Marwijk was the person who got them to the World Cup, and then he didn't agree his deal with the Saudi Arabian Federation to continue. So that would be a little bit of a worry for me. I think they've only got two players playing outside of the Middle East. Fahad Al-Muwallad, who's at Levante, but he's not been getting his game in Spain. So you have, I think it's really about Mohamed Al-Salawi. I think he scored 16 goals in qualifying, but 8 of them were against Timor-Leste. I don't even know what that country is. So it's just very difficult to measure what Saudi Arabia are going to do. And I think all you can do is base on the fact that their qualifying run away from home was pretty poor. They didn't do, I think they lost 4 matches away from home. And also the fact that at the last 3 World Cups, they haven't won a game. I think they've lost 7 and drawn 2. And it's a long time since that amazing goal they scored against Belgium in 1994 when they won 2 games and got to the last 16. So I really think that this is one of the issues about the World Cup. If you had a World Cup of 32 teams and you did it on rankings, how many European teams would be in it? 25, 20? Of course, they want to make the sport global, but because they have federations that are less strong than others, you're going to have teams like Saudi Arabia, New Zealand recent years, Australia this year, who are going to struggle. So the good side in a global game is that you're developing the game across the world, as we've seen in the United States, in terms of their performance at the World Cup. But in terms of negative side of it, is that in terms of the lopsided balance of it, that a normal Russia, the Russia that reached the Euro semi-finals in 2008, would make mincemeat of Saudi Arabia. It's more about Russia's issues that have made it a more level playing field today.
John, fair enough. Great stuff this morning. Enjoy the rest of the day and bring it on. Thanks a million.
Okay, guys, enjoy the first opening match. Thank you.
Das Vidania. That's class.
Yeah, the Bolshevik. I actually didn't expect them to have a Bolshevik cat
Ready to go.
Ready to go. That wasn't a queue. That wasn't a pre-planned queue. It literally just happened. So
There you go. I want one.
It's life has peaked right there when John Duggan put on the Bolshevik hat. I'm excited now. I'm excited. I'm at that stage in life where it's like Russia, Saudi Arabia is exciting me. It's like really getting the blood boiling at this stage, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a kind of a knacky 1-0 win for the Russians tonight.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of TV watched over the next month or so.
There's going to be a lot of television watched over the next month or so.
Yeah.
I really hope my television doesn't break down.
No, are you not getting like a supermassive 70-inch TV?
Funny you should say that. Thanks to our friends, I'm getting a 55-inch screen to watch the World Cup on.
It's sickening. Absolutely sickening. If anybody else wants to send us a TV, of course, there are many homes that would also take one, apart from ones. So World Cup Daily coming up around about 12:30 in association with Buzz Sports. Check out offtheball.com/Buzz Sports for all of your World Cup offers and some great specials there over the coming days and weeks as well. Going to look at Marca to see what they were saying about the situation. Rubiales, there is no rebellion. The players are with Hierro to the death. To the death. Because that's what it is now. It's a matter of life and death when you sack your manager because your ego is too big. 48 hours before the tournament kicks off. There they were in happier times. Look, that's the look of love. I've got you signed up all the way through to the next World Cup. I mean, this is great. You're like, we built you. We made you who you are. You're not going to betray us. After Julian Lopetegui was sacked by Spain on Wednesday, Real Madrid will not be forced to pay any compensation for him. Was the first line on the bottom of that one. Perez was right to hire Lopetegui, and the rest is hot air, says the mouthpiece of Florentino Perez, Marca. There you go. El culpable es el Madrid.
Madrid are culpable.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to guess that is.
Santinola, director of Mundo Deportivo. He's the editor of Mundo Deportivo. Say again? The fault is because of Madrid, says Jojo. Thanks for that.
So it's all your fault, Real.
Yeah.
And they don't care.
No.
They really couldn't care. In fact,
Zero fucks given, I believe, is how you kids would say it these days.
There's an actual scale and they come zero on,
We're just looking for some of the Catalan papers to see what they're saying. Is like, I mean, I guess one of my outstanding tournament memories is it Euro 2000 when England are 1-0 up into injury time and Zidane scores twice? Remember this? Remember this?
But
No.
I don't remember. Wait, like this is Euro 2004. Wait,
Is it 04?
when Zidane scored twice. Yeah, sorry, Euro 2004. Yeah.
In the free kick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Sorry, I thought you were referring to something way back in the 90s or something here.
No. And I was watching that game on my own in a flat, and all I could hear was the sound, the cacophony of laughter coming from upstairs as the first and second goals went in. It was just this... like non-stop, as if it was kind of like canned laughter from the flat upstairs, and I was like, well, this is somebody who's really enjoying the fact that England have just screwed up in such a stratospheric way. And I believe the same sound, if I just tune my ear a little bit, I can hear it from Catalonia right now. They don't give on the scale of Real Madrid not caring about it. Over here, they're actually like, this is brilliant. This is about as good as it could have been. You're doing more for Catalan independence than we could ever have done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, actually, just separately to that, is there going to be cackles of laughter if England fail? From
This time?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think that's I think this England team hasn't been hyped up though. No one's talking about it being a golden generation. There's no Gerrard and Lampard are the best players in the world.
But they do have, a striker who ran after a goal for weeks and weeks and weeks.
I know, that's the worst thing they've ever done.
They do have, on the front of the Telegraph this morning, bringing cakes and a little trophy and stuff like that. They're just trying so hard to be nice that I hope it just turns just a little bit sour and the mask slips, because it's very much a mask at the moment. It's we don't care about anything you've said about Raheem Sterling, etc., etc., etc. We're very happy. We're not going to let the outside world penetrate our very jubilant mood. And that mask shall slip eventually, is all I'm saying. And I'm looking forward to that moment, because we might see the real England. The real angry England.
England might be really good, though.
They might.
There's a chance.
I actually kind of hope they are.
There's a chance that I hope they're good and they play spectacularly well and they go as far as they're supposed to go. The tournament doesn't seem to, at the moment, have a really good team. I think Germany are really good because they've been through this and they have the same manager and they've got a bunch of players who know exactly what it takes to win.
I think the last two tournaments were a lot easier to predict in terms of a winner. I think
the last two World Cups.
The last two World Cups.
Yeah, but then the Euros.
Well, the Euros was just weird.
Germany not great.
No, I'm not sure what the major factors were for that, but certainly going into 2014, you thought this is an outstanding team. The Brazilian kind of luster sort of faded after a few weeks. The home crowd pressure and all that sort of stuff, particularly post Neymar injury, but pre-2010, it was everybody was getting on Spain at that point. There is no outstanding team at this moment. Brazil, their favouritism is probably strengthened as the odds have shown as a result of what's happened in Spain. But still standing by Spain. It's got to happen. It's there is a potential here, obviously, for England to just kind of meander on in with all these little problems that are going on around different teams. Will France mould in the way certain people expect them to mould as a team? Obviously pointed out that the Spanish problems. Are Germany as good as they previously were? Will Timo Werner step up to the spot in kind of such a dramatic way? A lot of people are tipping him for Golden Boot, and that might actually have to happen for them to win the thing. Brazil are the only ones with a lack of problems in that kind of favouritism cohort.
I don't remember that much the Germany-France game from the Euros where France went 2-0. Did France just completely outplay them, or was it just they scored 2 chances in the game?
This is 2016.
Yeah.
God, I actually...
Sorry about that.
That game has completely passed me by as well. How did that happen? How did that game pass both of us by?
The semi-finals, yeah. I don't know. I might have been travelling that day, or maybe, I don't know.
No, Ireland were out of the Euros well longer than that year. You can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah. It was the day after Portugal beat Wales. I definitely watched that.
Yeah. Germany, France. Wow. Okay.
Oh, we were probably on air. That's my excuse. Right. Let's get into Australia. Alan Quinlan is with us. Good morning to you, Quinny. How you doing?
Morning, lads. How are you?
Yeah, so we're obviously talking about the World Cup here. Australia's first World Cup match is on at exactly the same time as the Ireland-Australia rugby match, but the game is nearly fully sold out on Saturday, so at least there's plenty of interest in the rugby.
Yeah, there is. The Rebels obviously play here in Melbourne. There's a lot of AFL is probably the biggest sport here, and there's rugby league here as well. A lot of tennis. So a lot of sports going on here. There was an AFL game on Monday, and there was 80,000 people at it. It was a holiday here on Monday. But yeah, it's been pretty quiet to build up this week here in Melbourne. Bits of scraps on the papers, but very small amounts compared to the other sports. But I think closer to the weekend with the press conferences today, both Australia's and Ireland's, I think it's starting to ramp up the attention a little bit more.
And is the World Cup registering more than the rugby, or is it actually nothing but AFL?
It's nothing but AFL and NFL. The Origin is on again next week, State of Origin. The rugby only takes up a small bit of the paper, and it's not on the back pages. It's usually in a page or two to read the rugby story. So that doesn't surprise me. I've been here before. There's so many sports they're competing with here, but I think that's why it was so important that Michael Cheika's Australia got off to a good start last week to create a little bit of impetus, a little bit of attention. And it's amazing. We were, Australian training this week, the access you get to players, the totally relaxed attitude to, go and meeting the players. Even after the game, I went down pitch side after the game and I asked Chris Ford, the media manager for Australia, could I chat to one or two of the Aussies in the mix zone? And he didn't really know what a mix zone was. He said, what are you talking about? Grab anyone you want there and then. So they want as much attention and media stuff as possible. So I literally could have grabbed any player. I spoke to Israel Folau, Karevi, Michael Cheika, and it was nice just to see the reactions. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see if they lose at the weekend, will you be given the same access? But certainly they want as much media attention as possible, and they're fighting in the back pages to get some attention around the rugby.
Do the Aussies think they have this series sewn up, Alan?
I'd say they're confident, Owen. They don't lack in confidence, Australian people. I mean that respectfully. I think they kind of have a winning mentality, and they believe that they should win in any sport they play. So I think they're confident. But I think Michael Cheika, look, he'll know the Irish mentality. He'll know there's going to be a reaction. He'll know the best team is probably, the strongest possible team is probably out this Saturday. The changes maybe didn't give that cohesion that Joe Schmidt wanted last week. So I think he's pretty shrewd, and he'd probably given those messages to the players. But, I met the players earlier in the week coming through the airport, that you could just sense a massive, massive relief from them that they won this test match. It's the first time in 46 tests that Michael, in his tenure as coach, has been able to pick an unchanged 23. So it'll tell you he's done a lot of chopping and changing, and there's been a lot of reaction to results and losses they've had, and players available to him. So I think he's definitely looking for a bit of stability between here and World Cup. So it's a same 23 for Australia. I believe they'll be wary of Ireland, but I still think they'll be confident they can do it again.
Yeah, just to bring everybody up to date on the Ireland team. So it's Cian Healy, Niall Scannell, Tyke Furlong is the starting front row. The second row is James Ryan and Devin Toner, Peter O'Mahony, Dan Levy and CJ Stander. I presume Peter O'Mahony is the captain. It doesn't say it on the...
He is.
He's captain.
Yeah. Okay. And then it's Murray and Sexton, 9 and 10. The wings are Andrew Conway and Keith Earls. Fullback is Rob Carney. And then it is the Leinster partnership of Robbie Henshaw and Gary Ringrose at 12 and 13. The standout issue really is Niall Scannell is picked at 2 and Rob Herring is picked as the replacement hooker. So no Sean Cronin from the bench. Jack McGrath, Andrew Porter, Tyke Byrne is uncapped, obviously, and will hopefully make his debut appearance for Ireland in this game. Jordy Murphy retains his place on the bench, so no Jack Conan. John Cooney comes in, so no Kieran Marmion. Joey Carberry obviously stays on the bench, and Jordan Larmour is now just a staple of the matchday squads, ahead of Jacob Stockdale, probably because of his versatility. So it's pretty interesting, because we had assumed that Sean Cronin had done enough to re-establish himself as the number 2 in the Ireland setup to Rory Best, but that clearly isn't the case.
Yeah, and you think last week, okay, it's given Rob Herring a chance to start, even though Sean Cronin probably would have been disappointed, because I think he's only 11 starts in 62 test matches for Ireland, which, he'd want to get more starts, and really believes he's had a fantastic season. So I think he would have definitely been frustrated last week, but maybe more understandable. But this week he's not in the 23, so that certainly raises a few eyebrows. Joe Schmidt spoke about Niall Scannell. He's an admirer. He's a fan of Niall Scannell. He called him into the Six Nations in 2017. He started when Rory Best was ill for the Italy game. Did really well. He was on the bench for part of that campaign as well. So he likes him. And, Joe, if he kind of takes a liking to a player, and it's those minute little details that he likes. If he sees good signs in a player, he tends to back them. Sometimes, Sean Cronin is obviously very, very elusive around the field. I think one of the concerns, Jerry, is the scrum. Niall Scannell is a perceived strong scrummager, and I think losing that scrum last week against Australia for the penalty that put him ahead was a big moment in the game. Even though it's only one scrum that was bad, it's still that'll kind of live with that group of forwards. Not just the guys who started, the guys on the bench, the other forwards within the squad. And from my own time and memories, if you had a bad scrum in a game for any team, any of the teams you were playing with, you want to get over that. You want to go out and make a statement. And I think they've probably gone with Niall Scannell. Number one, he's had a stop-start season with injuries with Munster, okay? But I think he believes that this guy can, is good enough to play. He's good enough to challenge for the starting berth. And he's someone who, come World Cup will kind of give him more experience. But if you're Sean Cronin, I'm not privy to the relationship. There's obviously some things that Sean Cronin does in games that maybe doesn't please Joe. He does a lot of good things when you look from the outside, and as I said, he's a fantastic for Leinster. So certainly a few eyebrows raised.
Yeah, just on that scrum last week, because we didn't get a chance to talk to you about it. That was our first choice, ostensibly our first choice front row that had come off the bench, who were supposed to be fresh, who were supposed to be seeing the game out. So it will have been pretty hard for them to take. What was your read on what exactly happened? Because in the aftermath, the sense was, that scrum had wheeled. Certainly the defensive nature of what Joe Schmidt was saying afterwards was, well, that should have been a reset. The whole thing had turned around, as opposed to the penalty for Australia. What was your read on it?
Well, most referees there will reset that. I think Marius van der Westhuizen, he made some dubious calls for both sides last week. I think he was out of his depth. I think he was panicky. He got overawed a little bit by the situation. I just think Ireland weren't set properly, and Tom Robertson comes in. He's off the bench. He's listening to this conversation all week about Furlong and Healy are going to come off the bench for Ireland and make a massive impact. He comes off the bench there, and he's coming up against probably the best tight end in the world in Tadhg Furlong. So immediately he has a go, and I think just Ireland were a little bit high, moving their feet a little bit. I watched it a couple of times. There was a little bit of feet movement, and if you just get caught with one of those, Jared, then it's so hard to recover. And I think Australia spun around for sure. So it could easily have been a penalty to Ireland. You don't often see the loose head and the whole pack going around like that and they getting awarded the penalty. So it could easily have been a penalty the other way. I think because of that uncertainty, most referees will reset that scrum. But it was a big boost for Australia, and their bench, Latu came on, Tupou, young players who, like I said, were probably listening to this scenario all week that Ireland's first choice front row were going to come off the bench and win the game. So they're trying to fight down and nail down a jersey for themselves, and they were the ones who just got on the front foot. But that will live with you. It doesn't go away, Ger. Even if Ireland won the game last week, that one big scrum like that grows at a pack of forwards. And it's not just the front row. Collectively, the whole group need to be better this week.
One last thing about the World Cup and us being on the World Cup schedule. If you think back 12 months ago, Dan Levy was the third choice at Leinster in terms of number 7. Now it was a disaster that we didn't have him in the team last week to go up against Pocock. And you kind of see how quickly life changes. He's still only got 9 caps, and we kind of hear those cliches about how long it takes players to get up to speed at international level. He's booked all those trends. James Ryan has obviously also booked them, but like the whole notion that this is a closed situation at the moment, it's not. We shouldn't be thinking, right, this is the 15 that has to start when the big games happen in the World Cup in 18 months' time, because quite a lot can change between now and then, and Levy is testimony to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to remember Sean O'Brien is out injured. He's been so unlucky in the last 12 months. So Van der Fleer is injured. Dan Levy could have one bad game, or he mightn't play that well, and somebody else comes in. Jordy Murphy comes back in and plays a good game. That's the competitive nature of the amount of back rows. Jack Conan is chomping at CJ Stander. Ty Byrne could be an option at 6 if Peter O'Mahony doesn't play well. So that kind of competitive nature. But I think Levy's consistency over the last 8-9 months has been phenomenal. You think he came off the bench for, particularly the second half of the year, he came off the bench for Ireland and Paris, and he's been standout in all these games he's played. Really dominant, physical. Had a few bangs and knocks coming into the tour. I think that's why he wasn't involved last week. So I wouldn't expect Dan Levy to go out at the weekend and follow Pocock and Hooper around the field. I think there's an onus on the 15 guys at any given time, and I even said this, they should probably have a buzzword when they see Pocock and Hooper, that somebody shouts it, that you just go with that extra bit of urgency to try and remove the threat. They're so good. It's out of respect to Pocock, Hooper. But look, Levy brings that bit of dog, doesn't he? He brings that bit of aggressiveness. And Andy Farrell in particular, defensively, he'll be talking to his forwards this week about, number one, be more aggressive with their carries, and an onus on the ball carrier to have more of a fight, more of a leg drive, but also anyone entering the ruck, support players coming in, their urgency. Sometimes it's not about just being stronger than the opposition. It's about urgency, technique, and on occasions then technique goes out the window. It's just do or die, get in there and try and move someone out there. But Levy brings that bit of doggedness, which is it'll be interesting to see how he goes on Saturday.
one of the big questions for Saturday is how do Ireland lessen the impact of Israel Folau? Like, it seems that if we're going to stop
very
him,
simple, on don't kick to him.
don't kick to him.
That'd be a good start, wouldn't it?
Is it possible to kind of execute our kicking game by avoiding a fullback, or is it a minor tweak? Is it a major tweak that's going to be needed for Saturday?
Look, it's very difficult, and if you change up, Ireland's kicking game has been one of their strengths in a lot of games in the last number of years. In fact, they've been criticised for probably kicking too much at times. I don't want to see them kick the leather off the ball on Saturday. They're going to have to kick at times. They're going to have to exit out of their own 22. Conor Murray's box kicks can be very, very effective, and the kick chase. But I just think we lost that collision in the air. Folau, Rob Kearney hits him from the first kickoff. He hits him in the air, and Folau went down on his back, and it was a penalty. I'd nearly rather see a collision in the air than Israel Folau shooting in over people, winning the ball cleanly. And I just think there was occasions last week where we were waiting, and you could nearly sense that the player expected Folau to come and take the ball. You just got to get in the air. I would like to see Ireland pick and try and find a little bit of green grass and try and find a little bit of territory, and maybe move it 2 passes and put some grubbers, because their wingers come up very hard. And if Folau picks up the ball back in his own 22, where he has to pick it up and turn and run, well, then if he's a green wall in front of him, there's options and opportunities to tackle him and maybe turn the ball over. Tony McGahan said this to me last week I met him, and former Munster coach, of course, he knows all the Irish guys. He's coaching with the Rebels now. He said Folau is actually way more dangerous at taking the ball in the air, because he has an ability to jump out of the tackle like a gazelle and then take off, and there's a fractured defence. Whereas if you kick in behind him and find little corners and little pockets, that if you come up and there's 2 or 3 guys in front of him, instinctively he tries to take you on. Kicking is the last thing in his mind, and that you can get some reward out of that. So, look, I don't think they need to stop kicking. I just need to, number one, compete in the air a bit more aggressively, and number 2, sometimes find a little bit of green grass or use the grubber option.
It's interesting that Conway comes in for Stockdale. Stockdale obviously out of the 23 as well. I'm really excited about seeing Conway get a sustained sustained opportunity to show his form in the starting 15, because the progress in his game over the last 18 months has been really sensational. And obviously Stockdale took his opportunity in the Six Nations, set a record number of tries scored. But what Conway brings is something very different, and he has a maturity and a defensive capability that no doubt you feel in the intermediate term is something that Joe Schmidt is looking for.
They're different players, aren't they? Stockdale, he's the ultimate poacher, all the intercepts he's got, good left boot, but he looked a little bit rusty last week, and I think it's probably maybe a little unfair, you can tell me, but Ian Henderson looked a little bit rusty. Bundy Aki at times, even though Aki played well and he punched some good holes, these are the guys that haven't played in a number of weeks, Ger, and you lose that little bit of couple of % of your match fitness, and it can affect you. Stockdale was kind of battered up a little bit, didn't train fully on Tuesday. He certainly didn't do the contact. But then you have someone like Conway, who brings an incredible energy, pace, good footwork. He's good in the air, and you just think you're talking about the Folau thing on. Conway isn't as big as Folau, obviously, but I guarantee you he'll be flying through the air, and they'll probably collide, both of them in the air. Folau still may win it, but that's what you want, and I think that's probably one of the reasons as well why he's come in, just to bring a real energy. And Joe likes him. I think he's improved immeasurably under Joe Schmidt, being in the squad. I think he's got a lot of confidence now that he can play at this level, and if you give him ball in space, his footwork is so good, he may pop up and score a try for you. So I think it's just a little bit of a break for Stockdale rather than being dropped, and I think that's the way Joe was explaining it. And look, these tours are like that. Players get chopped and changed, and I think you have to bring in a bit of impetus, and that's what he's expecting from Conway on Saturday. Yeah,
Brian O'Driscoll accurately predicted that Australia would win last week on the basis of the teams that were picked. You'd feel a bit more confident as an Irish rugby fan this week that we've got more of our ducks in a row and more combinations that we're used to seeing, and a bit more game time for people like Robbie Henshaw, so you hope that he doesn't make the same mistakes as last week. What's your prediction for this week, Alan?
I'm more confident. To be honest, I was confident last week, Ger, and that was just basically down to Australia not having been together for a while and all their players playing Super Rugby last week. The week before, I just didn't think they could gel together. They adopted a bit of an old school approach, just rough Ireland up, slow them down, get in their faces, get off the line, be a bit cynical at times. And I love playing like that myself when I was there. Cheika would have been really... I chatted to him after the game. He was delighted with the players, the way these players fronted up. Ireland had more possession, more territory. The one big standout is the 21 turnovers. It's very, very hard to win a test match. And they're not turnovers at the breakdown. They're loose kicks, drop passes, and a couple at the breakdown as well. So if they can tidy up and be more accurate with the ball and show us a team that we saw in the Six Nations who were really diligent, really cohesive.
Yeah.
I think I'd be much more confident and get a result. The intrigue is, can Australia get better this week? The weather is not supposed to be good here in Melbourne. There's a storm coming in, wind, rain, sleet, snow even on some of the high ground around Victoria here. And so look, it's I'm more confident that we'll see the true Ireland side, and I think they'll definitely take it up a couple of notches. It's that angry reaction that you would expect, and I think I'd be confident they can get the result. But I did say it last week, so who knows? I may be wrong again.
One last question for you. News coming through overnight as well that Ronan O'Gara is staying for another 12 months in New Zealand. This is great news from his perspective in terms of his involvement with one of the best teams in world rugby. It's like one of the best jobs for a coach who's on his way up, who hasn't quite hit the head coaching role just yet. What's your take / information on this?
Look, he'd been chatting about it for a little while, that it's tough obviously on his wife Jess and the kids, and it's a big move for them, but as regards rugby experience, it's invaluable. The insights he's getting, the way things are done in New Zealand, the information he will gather, he's just building up his portfolio, if you like, his CV. And it's more than just a CV, because he doesn't look at it as I'm going to tick boxes here. He just loves being in that environment. He's a natural fit on the road. Listen, he was like a coach when he played. He picked all the backline moves. He was continuously challenging people around him. So it's a natural fit. And from what I'm hearing, he went there because of his time in Racing and Dan Carter's recommendations, how good he was. And the news coming out of it is they love him, that he's moved in straight away. Since he's been there, the players have really taken to him. And he's not afraid to voice his opinion. That's the one thing about Rog. He wouldn't go in there and be quiet just because there's a number of All Blacks there. I think he's never been afraid to stand up and be vocal. And so they're 9 points clear, Jared, at the top of their conference, the Crusaders. They've only lost 2 games, so their form has been outstanding. And they've had a number of number of injuries and All Blacks away as well. So it's no surprise. And I think it'd probably be a shame to go there just for the 6-7 months and come away when one more season. And I just came thinking Joe Schmidt leaves in 2019, and maybe you might see Ronan O'Gara coming back, being involved with Ireland. But look, I think there'd be Joe likes him and he keeps in touch with him. He brought him to America. He could be involved after that with Ireland anyway. I don't know. I know the other coaches signed new contracts recently, but I just think that do another season there. If they win the Super Rugby title, it'll be massive for him. And if he comes back around Europe, I think he'll be in high demand. So I think it's good. We need to get him back to Ireland though soon. Just give him another year there and get him back into the Irish system, because I think he's too good at this stage to have him away too long. Yeah,
my suggestion was that after Joe Schmidt leaves, when Ireland do whatever they do in the World Cup, that the Leinster coaching ticket can take the Ireland job, and then Ronan O'Gara can take the Leinster job.
Rog can go to Leinster, yeah, exactly.
Seems fair.
Yeah, he'd probably get vilified by Munster people, but look, he's out there, he's in the game. Whatever jobs come up, I think you've got to be selfish when you're out of the playing bubble. I've seen that myself. Players you chat to who retire, they realise once you're out of that bubble, you've got to be open to different scenarios. If you want to get in the coaching game, you can't pick and choose. I think if an opportunity, and I know you're trying to rise me there, but if an opportunity comes like that, Rog won't look at it as a Leinster-Munster thing. He'll look at that as, can I win things? Am I going to win trophies? What's the squad like? What's the age profile of the squad? who am I signing? And that's just the reality of it. But look, at the end of the day, whenever he comes back, I think it's great news for him. And I think all people, everyone in Ireland wishes him well. I hope he gets back into the system in a couple of years, because I think he's look, he was, as I said, he was a natural to go into that role as a coach.
Alan, great stuff. Enjoy Melbourne. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads.
It's Alan Quinlan, part of Sky's commentary team, obviously, at the weekend for that.
Yeah, there was, I'm not sure if you recall, a couple of months ago, I was on Melbourne radio chatting about the international rules, and I made some sort of derogatory reference to Michael Cheika at the end, and they were like, who? It's like a sports show in Melbourne who covers everything. They're like, who the hell is Michael Cheika?
Were they taking the piss?
No, they were serious. They were like,
right, wow.
Wait, one of the guys was like, yeah, I think I've heard of him. Is he rugby union? It just doesn't make an impact in that part of Australia. But I'm actually very surprised to see that it's nearing a sellout on Saturday.
I'd say there's a lot of Irish people there.
A lot of Irish, I would suspect. But then again, with a city of that large a population, you're bound to hit enough of a rugby union
It's only 32,000 capacity.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah,
well, in that case, it's probably going to sell out.
OTB AM is brought to you this morning with Screwfix, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. A couple of quick texts for you there. Starting to think Cronin and Schmidt had a run-in the past, considering Joe's treatment of him. What does Cronin have to do? Did he kick one of Joe's cats or something? Hashtag OTB AM, asks Isle Cody. Aidan Delaney says, I thought Stockdale did all right the last day, but to be fair, he did play every match this year. And Seamus Bannon says, we were done out wide. The Southern Hemisphere teams have the great ability of getting the ball wide quickly. Ireland need to adapt to that. I did think they were a bit more nuanced than just beating the shit out of us. I thought that there were certainly moments in that game where Australia were playing rugby and we were scrambling to get back and to kind of just stop what was going on.
Yeah, it certainly helps that they've got two playmakers. When you've got somebody like Curtly Beale in your midfield, that makes getting the ball out to your wide channels very, very easy.
It'd be good to try that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Over the next 6 months.
But who is that person? Like, it seems like, is Bundyaki that person? Carberry at 12?
Yeah.
Well, it's a brave move right there. Now is the time to be trying it, obviously. This is kind of like last chance saloon.
And maybe something like that happened this week, just kind of accidentally, the way it seemed to happen for the Lions accidentally. No, we never thought about playing Sexton and Farrell together, was Gatland, until like the middle of the week when somebody went, maybe we should play the two lads together. In every newspaper, it was like, you've got these two really good players, maybe you could try and see what happens. So, so I just want to play you this, right? This is the last interview that John O'Gibbs did as the Ulster head coach just after they had won the playoff to qualify for next season European Cup. He was asked, he was on the BBC in the immediate aftermath of that, and he got a little bit testy.
I just want to share some time with the people I've worked alongside tonight and celebrate what those boys put out there. And man, that's awesome. Seriously, we've been criticised throughout the year for performance and all that other garbage, but I feel good about what they've displayed today, because that came from the group, that came from within them, and they should be really proud of what they showed today.
Can you understand why people have criticised you while you were in France on a Thursday ahead of this game on the Sunday?
Not really, no. I think if you look at it, the question is probably, did preparation get compromised? No, it didn't. It was a player's day off, and the fact was it was a bizarre game in that we had 3 weeks to prepare for this game anyway. So there wasn't a lot of detail that needed to be covered off. Players down day. I've got a life outside of Ulster rugby as well, and I think the question being, was performance compromised? No, it wasn't.
Is there a sour taste in this relationship you leave Ulster with, or is it good?
Why would you ask that, mate? Mate, I've just said, I've just had a great experience working with people. It's been a difficult year. There's no sour taste. So I know you got to ask that, but I don't know why you want to carry on like that. Okay, good man. Appreciate that.
I appreciate that. There's no sour taste. Everybody's sphincter is tightening for no reason whatsoever. It's perfectly normal that you would be, 4 days out, 3 days out from the biggest game of the season for Ulster, doing a job interview with La Rochelle. I mean, no, it wasn't a job interview, just sussing out what the situation was there. Oh, news breaks this morning. La Rochelle have announced John O'Gibbs is their new director of rugby. Not immediately, though, because he was promised to Waikato. Because when he was down at Waikato were like, we don't know anything about this La Rochelle thing. I mean, he's come home for personal reasons to New Zealand and we've given him a job. And now it's like, no, there's nothing going on with La Rochelle, because we would have heard about that, right? But it turns out there is something going on with La Rochelle. La Rochelle's one of the best jobs in European rugby.
Yeah.
And John O'Gibbs has just landed that big fish. He has some nerve, is what Stephen Ferris said. about John Gibbs, so that's where the sour taste in the Ulster setup's mouth was.
He's a career man, John O'Gibbs. You can't deny him that much.
No.
He certainly climbed that ladder.
And I suppose, just as Alan Quinlan was saying there, like, you have to be selfish when you're in this role.
Selfish to the point of forgetting about the team you were literally head coach of ahead of their biggest game of the season.
Well, he's got a life outside Ulster Rugby.
Sorry, yes. Sorry. There is no
He's got
sour
a life
taste.
outside Ulster Rugby.
Would you say there was a sweet taste in this relationship, Jono?
Yeah. One of those, that kind of sweet, acrid smell, burning flesh that sometimes happens when they're,
Just heartburn. It's just a feeling of heartburn in Ulster right now with regards to John O'Gibbs.
Tire fire. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously things have worked out really well for Ulster. Their CEO is on his way out. The new coach might be coming in at some point. Who knows when? Things are going great.
Yeah, God. If only they had Joey Carberry.
I mean, that definitely would have been a sticking plaster, but at least he's not going to Ulster. I mean...
Yeah, you kind of see him as a son of yours, really.
No.
You feel some sort of duty of care.
Well, I mean, who's your local superstar Gaelic footballer?
Who's we don't have anybody on the Kerry team, which is okay, It's okay to not have anybody on the Kerry team.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's I can see why you'd want to look after him. I can see why you want the best for him because he's from FI, not just because he's a Leinster man.
Yeah, totally. So a story in the front of all of the newspapers today, particularly the Examiner have led with it on the front of the actual Examiner, which I don't have with me, but I can tell you that it's also the sidebar on the front of the Independent today. GAA youth coaches live through teams. So Colin Regan, the GAA's community and health manager, was before the Oireachtas committee yesterday. Now, Colin Regan is one of the best people you come across in sport. He kind of has this ability to transmit the sense that he is trying to do his very best for everybody he comes in contact with. And that's a rare thing in Irish sports. So when he talks, we should all listen. And he's saying that parents are being absolute, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but they're... It's a major issue that parents are putting kids off sport by their antics on sidelines. And it's really something that we as a country should address. The suggestion is that it's being driven by the win-at-all-cost mentality. It's also being driven by parents trying to live vicariously through their kids. And it's also being driven by the ego of the coach who thinks that the under-10s is Real Madrid and the opposition is Man United. And this is his time to be in the Champions League and to have a 4-3-3 or to have win-backs, and that the only players who can play are the ones who can play in his system, as opposed to the kids who show up every week and don't get any game time. So this is a trauma in Irish sport that we keep talking about. Nothing ever really happens about it. And I'm not sure that parents are kind of looking at themselves and going, am I one of those dickhead parents on the sideline shouting at... There's a story in the Examiner, quick Google this morning, see, like, this comes up every 6 months. And one of the stories from 2017 was of a coach spotting a parent behind the goalkeeper, and it was the dad of the opposition striker trying to put the goalkeeper off. Like,
that's incredible.
What's the point? Your kid scores a goal and you've cheated by putting the goalkeeper off. Is he going home to celebrate that night?
In a sad manner, he probably
totally
gets some sort of satisfaction out of that. But
the dad gets oh look, we cheated that kid out of insanity.
It is like what you say there about coaches who think that they're Jose Mourinho on the sideline of these things kind of raises the question: at what stage do we stop being influenced by what we see on the television? Like, people always say, well, look at Cristiano Ronaldo doing a bad thing. That's going to influence all the 7-year-olds out there. But, what about Jose Mourinho playing negative tactics but succeeding? Maybe that's actually influencing the 40-year-olds of this country, where maybe we don't stop being... we don't lose our ability to be resistant to change or resistant to kind of things we see on television. And I know that seems like a bit of a weird thing to say, but... maybe they see Jose Mourinho giving tetchy post-match interviews and they're like, I can see something of myself in that person. I'm going to impose his negative style because it's been relatively successful. Or
let's face it, Andy McEntee on his treatment of the referee at the weekend. Like that we need to call that out as unacceptable, as opposed to going, everybody has sympathy for me. And it's hard not to have sympathy for me because the refereeing decisions are so bad. But as Mike Quirk said, you need to get over it. Right, let's move on because the US Open starts today at Shinnecock Hills. Our man Joe Malloy is with us this morning to give us a bit of a preview about what we should expect. Joe, the US Open has kind of lost its soul in recent years. Does it get it back here at Shinnecock Hills?
That is the word. How you doing, lads? Yeah, there's been a real kind of US Open has lost its identity discussion over the last number of years. So the US Open is always talked about as, quote, the toughest test in golf. That's what it's supposed to be. Par is meant to be a brilliant score. You're going back to Justin Rose in 2013 for the last time there was an over par winner. So the last four have all been in the red. Brooks Koepka won on 16 under last year. Fairways were 60 yards wide. People are kind of wondering, what is this? What is it meant to be? And they've had a number of cock-ups, and Mike Davis has had some weird course designs, and they went to Chambers Bay a couple of years ago, which looked like a different planet. So there's been an element of wondering, does the US Open want to get a few more birdies, maybe a bit more excitement? What's the plan here? David Duval, who has kind of turned into one of the best pundits around, has said in the last day or so, I'm excited to see a proper US Open again. I'm hoping that the golf course is fair but severe and penal. And, look, it's not quite the traditional single file fairways and horrific rough. The fairways are more generous than they might have been 10, 20 years ago. But they're talking about this now as a real return to form. The course is highly regarded by everybody. And the last number of years, they've gone to different courses. Erin Hills last year, Chambers Bay. They're back here at Shinnecock, which is like one of the 5 founding courses, held the second ever US Open. And the next 10 years look pretty safe from a US Open point of view. They'll be back to Oakmont, Torrey Pines, Pebble Beach twice, Winged Foot. They'll be back to Shinnecock again, where this is. So they've had this weird phase in the last kind of 5-6 years. And there's a sense now that they're getting back to a more tried and tested US Open.
So Shinnecock would have been one of those names from our youth that we would remember. The last time was there, Goosen won it. Is that right?
Yeah, 2004. So Shinnecock is real old school, held the second ever US Open in 1896, is kind of one of the founding 5 US GAA courses. And lots of people say it's one of the best courses in America, best course in the world. So yeah, Retief Goosen in 04. And in some respects, they made such a mess of it in 04. It was like a spectacular balls up in 04 with the course. You can kind of understand maybe why they've lost their identity or lost their way a little bit. Like in 04, the average score on a Sunday was a 79, and only 2 players finished under par for the tournament. That was Goosen and Mickelson.
Is that not what they want? Do they not want the average score to be 79?
Yeah, it's a funny one because you see, I do have a bit of sympathy for them in some ways because they walk this tight line between toughest test in golf and just a farce, And so in 04, the 7th green has kind of gone down in infamy, whereby you couldn't hold the green from 150, 60 yards. It was par 3, but you couldn't hold the green because it was just rock hard and the ball would roll off. Phil Mickelson's caddy told him, you have to hit the bunker. It's the only way to get a 3 here. Mickelson finished second ultimately. So Mickelson deliberately had to hit the bunker and get up and down, make his par and get the hell off. And in between players, they were frantically watering. These guys with hoses are watering the green to try and soften it up somehow, to no avail. And their weird logic was, if someone makes a double bogey, we water the hole, we water the green. And if someone doesn't, we hold off for 20 minutes. It was a complete mess. The players are saying, look, this is kind of gotten out of control. So, they walk that line and it can be probably a difficult one to walk.
Is it a completely different course now? Would it look completely different to the naked eye? I see Ben Crenshaw was involved in redesigning the course almost since 04. Yeah. Has it just been a matter of bringing the fairways out a little bit wider and making those greens a little bit softer?
They've made it longer as well. It's up to 7,400 yards now, and the greens or the fairways on average are about 15 yards wider. So to the naked eye, it looks quite generous, and a lot of the fairways are 40 odd yards wide, which is very generous, and some of them are 60 yards wide. They've made the greens bigger as well. What you're going to see here is Ted Scott, who's Bubba Watson's caddy. He tweeted that a bomber is going to win. So he thinks it's a really long course and you'll be able to use driver a lot. So he thinks a player with length is going to win. Everybody else has kind of said it's a second shot golf course. It's about your iron play in, because they've made the greens a bit bigger. But actually, the space to land it on the greens is very small. There are runoff areas all over the shop. What you're going to see a lot of here is balls landing on greens and just catching the wrong side of a slope and rolling off. And not just rolling off the edge, rolling 20 yards down a steep hill. There'll be certain shots where a player hit a good pitch shot in and the ball's going to run all the way back down to his feet. You're going to have those kind of moments. So they're saying it's a second shot golf course more than anything. So iron play and scrambling. is going to be ultimately what's going to prevail, maybe more than distance.
2 names that people are talking about in the build-up with the best chances, Justin Rose and Dustin Johnson. Obviously, Johnson is in sensational form at the moment. Does he have the game and the patience to win this week?
Yeah, he has everything. Like, he's just scary good. He's just brilliant. And he won last week. I mean, he drives the ball forever. His wedge play is brilliant as well. He's putting pretty well at the moment. And, you know, he won last week. People say it's tough to win, you know, in consecutive weeks. He won twice in a row in 2017. He won 3 times in a row in 2016. He's the kind of player who's happy to win in fits and spurts. Look, he's played 12 times this year. He's won twice. He's finished second twice. He's at 8 top 10s. His US Open record is phenomenal. Like, he's scary good. He's more than deserved favourite. He's back to world number 1. Like, he's brilliant. You know, much maligned, you know, Dustin Johnson, not very smart. He is brilliant.
What about Justin Rose?
Yeah, I really like Rose. He won the US Open obviously a couple of years ago. He's in brilliant form. Like Rose, I mean, when you talk about this course where distance is handy, he ticks that box. Iron play is going to be massively important. He absolutely ticks that box in a huge way. The thing about Rose, and it's always been the thing, is his putting. And he has turned himself into a very, very, very good putter. He's now like top 20 putter on tour in strokes gained this year. So, look, I backed him for the Masters and he sort of let me down. He didn't have a great week. He never got going. Rose is like in the peak. You know, he's almost certainly going to win another major or two in his career. He's at his absolute peak now. He loves the US Open. Lawrence Donegan tipped him during the week. He definitely has a huge chance. I mean, if he clicks it all and he is in great form, then Rose is really hard to beat. He's such a US Open player.
What about Phil and Tiger? Are they a heritage act this week that people are coming along to see for nostalgia reasons, or are they both capable of being relevant down the stretch on Sunday?
Both, in a way, kind of both. I mean, more the former, if we're being brutal. Like Phil is just look, I adore Phil. He's amazing. He's a genius. And you would think, you know, you can imagine him scrambling around these really tough greens brilliantly. Phil is looking. He's been second at the US Open 5 times. Like, it's beyond cruel. Once in 2004 here at Shinnecock. He's playing okay. The worry with Phil is, and it's always the worry, his driving is erratic. He's never going to be a good driver. And the fairways are wider, but the rough is thick. Like, this is not Erin Hills last year. This is really thick, terrible rough. So, look, he's a long shot, but I mean, he can just do something magic. As for Tiger, Tiger's a weird case this year. In different weeks, different parts of his game have been unbelievable. Like last week at Memorial, his iron play was back, and you know, greater golf minds than me have certainly said it. Trip Eisenhower on the Golf Channel was just saying it the other day. His iron play was like Tiger Woods back in the day kind of level. Like it was just, this is unbelievable. And this is a second shot golf course. This is really promising. But he couldn't putt. Like he was terrible. And he's been very erratic with the driver. Now, earlier in the season, he putted very well and his irons weren't so good. And then he's had days where his driving's been okay. He hasn't had many rounds where he's put it all together. You kind of feel like he's a year away from maybe it all clicking. But, like, who knows? It wouldn't shock anyone. He's put in some really, really brilliant rounds. Like, he's not back. He's back, kind of a thing. That's where he is on the backometer. He's staying in his $20 million yacht 14 miles off the coast. Apparently the traffic there so we're kind of Hamptons, Long Island, that's Scott Fitzgerald territory. Okay. Yeah, no, this is good stuff. Actually, Phil always plays well in New York for some reason. That's another kind of slight quirk of Phil. He loves the crowd, they love him. But apparently traffic's dreadful. Like, they're genuinely worried someone's going to miss a tee time. So people are putting, you know, here to Shinnecock into their Google Maps and it's saying your hotel's 45 minutes away. And 3 hours later, they're coming into the parking lot. Apparently, like, they made a complete. The US Open makes a mess of something. This year, they think, thankfully, it'll be the traffic. But Tiger is staying in his $20 million yacht 40 miles off the coast, so he's got a quick commute. He seems to be, like, in good form and happy and all that kind of stuff. So the new book out about him is kind of dreadful and full of awful anecdotes of his kind of casual rudeness and disdain for people. So
it's more than the Navy SEAL stuff. It's there's further details, is there?
Like, it's a brilliant book. We're gonna have the authors on next week. Like, they go into great detail on the sex addiction and all that business, and like, it's far worse than I'd ever thought. Like, the numbers are off the charts. But more than that, it's his casual, awful day-to-day entitlement and disdain for people. Like a really quick anecdote if you have time. This is just like one page in a 300-page book, but for some reason it stayed with me every time I look at him now. Mark O'Meara, great friends with Mark O'Meara and his family, and he would always stay with the O'Mearas at the house they rented at Augusta. He's a bit cheap as well. That's like a theme in the book, so we'd always take their spare room in that spare house. Mark O'Meara wins Augusta, I can't remember exactly what year it is. Tiger's staying with him. They're back to the house to get changed, to leg it back to Augusta for a Champions dinner that Sunday night. And so Tiger's been staying in this house a long time, a couple of years at this stage. O'Meara sends him next door where his wife is with the neighbours who, the O'Mearas are nice people. They've gotten to know over the years. They're having some champagne. Check what time we have to go at. Tiger goes next door. There's like 5, 6, 7, 8 women having a glass of champagne celebrating with Mark O'Meara's wife. And I think it's O'Meara's wife. Someone in the room anyway says, "Oh, hi, Tiger. By the way, this is," I can't remember her name. "This is Rosie, let's call her. This is Rosie. It's her house you've been staying in all these years." Rosie kind of stands up. "Hi, Tiger. It's really just good to meet you. It's my house. I move out for the week and you stayed in my house all these. Great to meet you." Tiger, according to the book, and the authors confirm this, we've spoken to him, just looks at her for a beat, doesn't react, turns to Mark O'Meara's wife, says, "Mark wants to know what time we're leaving at."
Oh my God.
And exits. and it's this kind of like repeated, awful, casual rudeness that happens again and again and again and again, which in a way, when you read the book, is more like grotesque and awful than the grotesque awfulness of his infidelity. So, look, the authors, by the way, they do think he's changed. They're buying the new Tiger Act. I know certainly one cynic in that room there won't buy it. And I don't know how you feel, but he seems like a changed person. He genuinely does, but the book does him no favours. It's really, really grim.
So the hoteliers or the people with spare rooms in Donegal might be happy. He's not going to play the Irish Open, Joe, by the sounds of things. Is that something that breaks your heart a little bit?
Yeah, geez, like it's weird. Look, he's still the most interesting thing in golf. And when he's playing and in his red shirt and his cap, I'm kind of rooting for him. I'm unsure off the course. Steinberg said Lahinch is sort of like a vague possibility next year. He said that just this week. Now, look, I mean, I think it was the quote went as far as Tiger loves Ireland.
Yeah.
I'm sure he loves the courses. yeah. So there's been kind of headlines. Look, so Tiger's an interesting one. Probably more the heritage side of things, but hey, look, you really never know. And it's not baseless. Like he has performed well across the year at times.
Yeah. That book is just called Tiger Woods. If anybody wants to take it out, is it?
Yeah, it's really good. Full of anecdotes. Like Tiger comes across terribly in it. His father comes across
worse.
Like Earl lived out his days in the end when he ultimately separated from his wife, Tiger's mother, in like a house where porn was on the TV 24 hours a day, and there were women employed to look after him and his every need, and it was just not a pleasant existence.
Sounds pretty great.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I just want to get one question in on Rory, Joe, because it's a strange one. Rory seems, and correct me if I'm wrong here, weirdly content with his game at the moment. Is he does that contentment maybe speak to a lack of killer instinct, which has been shown on the course? I know he's had one win, but it's still only one win this season, given the positions he's been in.
Like it's a legitimate question to start asking. Like it's hard to go and ask about Rory McIlroy because he has won 4 majors. But we're now into year 4. Like I was just thinking, 4 years ago, it was coming down from Brazil. I stopped off to watch him win the Open in 2014, and then he won the USPGA a month later. And he's like 4 years younger. So what is he? He's 24. And like we were really thinking, oh my God, this guy's going to win 10, 12, 13, 14 majors. This is unbelievable. And a bit like it's 10 years since Tiger won a major. It's now 4 years since Rory won a major, which is kind of mad. It's hard to know what's going on with him in some ways. I know the reports are he's playing really well. People have followed him around the caddies and say he's hitting the ball beautifully. He knows this course is worth mentioning. He's been playing this course on the side for years. He first played here with Bill Clinton in 2013 because that's kind of how Rory rolls now. So he really likes the course. I mean, it probably as ever comes down to his putting. He's about 57, 58 on tour and putting at the moment. It's like, it's okay, and maybe he has a good week. He said he's going to play very conservatively this week, which is kind of right. It's hard to know. I mean, maybe he's just too well adjusted for his own good. But then other times you do get the sense it eats away at him that he's not winning more. But his game seems to be in good shape. and he likes the course, and he's a very experienced player now. This is like his 10th US Open. He's played 18 of the last 19 days. You get the sense he's starting to realise the years are going by, and like they are, and bloody hell, the next generation are good. They look at Rory off the tee and they're not so scared of his length. Like when the Padraig Harrington generation are looking back at Rory going, how does he hit the ball so goddamn far? The generation behind him are saying, yeah, that's kind of, that was his big asset. So look, the clock's ticking in a very slow way, but the clock is ticking for Rory.
Good stuff, Joe. Enjoy it. Thanks a million.
All right, lads. See you.
More from Joe on the radio. I was going to say tonight, but actually it's going to be Nathan. So you'll hear from him again on Sunday. Of course, Golf Weekly will be having, I presume, a special Golf Weekly today.
It is at 2 o'clock, I understand. Did they go live with Golf Weekly?
Yeah, I think so.
They do, yeah. So that'll be 2 o'clock is what I understand. That's my information.
Don't know if they go live or not. We just made that up. They are now.
Yes, they are now.
They should. Yeah, exactly, Tommy. Tommy says you should. OTB AM brought to you this morning with Screwfix, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. I want to bring you this. Andy Lee talking about Irish boxing being in the gutter the other night. We'll talk about Canelo and Triple G afterwards.
And the word used for, I guess, the brand that is boxing in this country lately is toxic, and people associate it with really dangerous, nefarious elements. It's in a sorry state at the moment in broad terms. You can get as specific as you like or not, but it must sadden you when you see all the great work that great people do in the sport and compare that with the general perception of the sport now amongst the general population.
Yeah, it saddens me. Boxing is in the bin in Ireland. It's in the gutter, and it's going to take a lot to get it back to any semblance of respectability. I can't see anybody who's not a diehard boxing fan or a family member or a friend of a certain fighter going out and buying a ticket.
Yeah, because there was a shooting at the National Stadium this year.
Why would you take a chance? Why would you take a chance with your life to go and see a sport that's at the best of times struggle to sell? So all this goes on, and it's the fighters, the likes of Eric Donovan and the fighters in Ireland who are not heralded, who don't have TV deals, and who need people to buy tickets so they can fight, who have to depend on ticket sales.
And sponsors aren't going to
it's never been an attractive sport for corporate Ireland or anything. So it's gonna take a long time to heal, and maybe it'll take like a new star to get people interested again and get them back. Maybe 5 to 10 years.
Really?
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't see any big fight being put on in Dublin now for a long time, and it's a sad state of affairs, but it's where we're at, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty depressing, really, when you think about it, because there was a period of time there when Bernard Dunn was fighting and filling the Point Depot. It was like, and that next generation of boxers who've come through, and the fact that the high performance unit was all gone so well. And then it all got frittered away for various reasons. You should just talk about the rematch between Canelo and Triple G. It's back on and will take place on September the 15th. Earlier this month it was reported that the two teams couldn't agree on the terms, but that has now been put aside. And this is going to have an impact on the Wilder Joshua card. There was obviously that September the 15th date, they're not going to go up against that. There's another possibility then that it'll be a month later. So hopefully they get that done and they don't have any more. There's mandatory challenges that they're supposed to get out of the way first. But I mean, surely everybody can go, yes, you can both mandatorily challenge the winner afterwards and we'll work out some deal, because whatever you think about the crappy attitude that the sport has to drugs cheats, in particular the way that Alvarez is going to be able to come straight back, if they're going to take him back, get him in, get that fight with Triple G, have that super fight, have the next super fight with the heavyweights, and let's get on with it, right?
Yeah, completely. It's interesting as well when you mentioned,
because they don't care about the drugs, and they don't care about the risk to human life.
But it seemed like Triple G did care. It seemed that, he called Canelo a drugs cheat. He said it's not the meat, it's not contaminated meat. Everybody needs to open their eyes to see what this guy's doing, what his camp is doing. And maybe Triple G's just started to realise, looking around at the lands he owns, and just started to think to himself, I'm never going to get as rich as I want to be unless this drugs she comes back into the game. And I presume anything that we hear from Triple G about Canelo will be about what a crappy fighter he is in the build-up. Once this thing is signed, sealed and delivered, which it is now, it seems, Oscar De La Hoya had tweeted it earlier, then he can start talking about him as a drugs cheat. Not beforehand, though, not before we actually get this thing signed on the dotted line, because they're both going to make a hell of a lot of money out of this thing. It was like something like 1.3 million pay-per-views in the US for the initial fight. The gate receipts was through the roof as well. So
yeah, and this will be bigger because there's so much controversy around the first fight, which technically ended in a draw, even though most people thought that Golovkin won.
Yeah, there was a bit of a joke for a call, but it keeps the narrative going.
Yeah, and that's all that boxing really wants, Okay, one final thing on boxing/combat sports, really. Conor McGregor has a court date today. That's his tweet to Cian Cowley. Congrats at Cian Cowley from the cells to the stadiums. Not a scratch. They done nothing. Jet leaves Tuesday. My brother, have a good one. #animal. So the jet has arrived, obviously, in New York City. And most seasoned observers of the US justice system do believe that not very much, apart from a slap on the wrists and maybe some community service, will result from the various charges that they are facing, including the very funny criminal mischief.
Yes. I don't ever want to be accused of criminal mischief, but if I am ever going to be accused of something, then criminal mischief is certainly top of the list. It's you'd almost put it on your CV. It's such it doesn't sound like a felony at all.
No, you can totally see that in their Twitter bios.
Yeah. Like Conor McGregor, purveyor of criminal mischief.
So Arsenal against Man City is going to be the opening weekend fixture that most people are going to pick out from the Premier League. Man United, where are they? They have Leicester City at home. I mean, are Leicester City, are they any good anymore? Are they relegation fodder again next season? I remember they won the league. Do you remember that?
No.
Do you remember they won the league?
It's all a blur.
Spurs are at Newcastle. Cardiff City with Greg Cunningham will be at Bournemouth on the opening day of the season. But Arsenal Man City is a standout one. Fulham Palace, Huddersfield Chelsea, Liverpool West Ham. This is called a news dump.
Yeah.
On the day that the World Cup starts, the Premier League, in the style of Florentino Perez, are like, no, there's nothing else on today.
Yeah.
We've got news, get it out there.
Well, Arsenal have Chelsea in the second game as well, by the way. That's the news. Like Unai Emery's got City and Chelsea to start his Arsenal regime.
Scheisse. That's not easy, is it?
No. Maybe the Premier League just views Arsenal as a lesser team now, and it's kind of like putting Everton up against good teams for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Newcastle Spurs there looks like a good old game on the opening day. But yeah, you're right. Why are we talking about the Premier League? The World Cup is here.
Yeah, who cares? So I think that Russia are going to do this tonight, because I think Russia, might have a little bit of help the way that South Korea had a little bit of help. It's not just like that it's, institutionalized fixing or anything like that. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, or that the Russians have been doping. I'm not saying that has happened, even though that's exactly what happened in Sochi. I'm not saying that's what happened. I am saying that it's the first game of the tournament and the home team, sometimes they just feel a little bit better at life.
Or maybe Saudi Arabia are really bad at football. Like less bad or even more bad at football than Russia. Russia are very, very bad at the sport.
You're getting a kicking for this one. I never said that they were lower ranked or badly ranked.
It's a good point, actually. Well, I didn't come out with this point either, Paul F. I think that was John.
Screw you, Paul F.
I think that was John Duggan who actually kind of brought up that point. I do agree with him there, because it's the friendlies.
Yeah, but they're also crap. I mean, there's loads of ways that they can.
They are, but they're going to have a 39-year-old at the heart of their defence.
3 of their best players have cruciate injuries. Spain and France and Brazil and Germany all to make the semi-finals. 28-1. Get on it, says Conor Clancy. Rory, his main issue, the players around him have improved in that 4 years, whereas his game has stayed the same. It's as if he's missing the competitiveness he had when he came on the scene, when Tiger was his target.
That's kind of the point I was trying to make to Joe there earlier on. It seems strange that Rory's won one tournament this year, despite the fact that he's been so close, and he's still meandering around saying, I'm very happy with where I'm at. Surely a guy in his age and the prime wants to be saying to people, I'm not happy with where I'm at because I didn't win the Masters, or I didn't come anywhere close in the end, but I put myself in a position to win the thing.
Fair enough. Yeah, probably you're right. I'm with Owen on this one, says Juan Jose 16 at the Leinster Council wanting the hurling final after the football. Each GAA coat will get its days in the sun this summer. Deal with it.
Thank you, Juan Jose 16.
Stop being hurling snobs. And then David Lynch finishes with the succinct, World Cup is here. I'm not sure about the. Okay, so I have the emojis here.
Translate to our.
There's a beer. There's a. It looks like a microwave, but it's probably a TV. There's what looks like a drone, and there's a smiley face with the teeth showing, which I don't really know what that one is, but
it's a teeth smile. It's somebody who's very happy with
toothy grin.
Exactly. somebody's very
beer couch. The couch that looks like a drone.
A drone. Well,
you need to work on your couch game, emoji people.
Surveillance, I thought, was going to be a theme of this World Cup. Everybody
it is.
We're all being watched
let's face
right
it,
now.
Russia have known the Saudi Arabian team for weeks. Right, that's pretty much all we've got time for. The radio show will be back tonight with 7 o'clock. John Giles in harness. In the meantime, of course, though, you're going to get your World Cup daily fix right here. Owen is not going anywhere. He's going to swat up on the Saudi Arabian system and how exactly they're going to play today, right?
3-4-3.
Do all the Saudi Arabians have Saudi Arabian passports?
I was asked this question last week, actually, on the air. I need to actually go and brush up on that answer in case it does happen again. I don't know. I haven't checked.
I mean, more shitty research like that on today's World Cup Daily from 12:30. We'll see you then. Good luck. Oh, we're playing out with Kevin Caban.
In general, they know exactly how they're going to play. They've got the calibre of players that's going to get them the results on the pitch anyway. So, yeah, the only downside is the relationship. How close were they to Lopetegui? That could be a key issue. I don't know. I really don't know, Joe.
The best part of this thus far is that someone's just walked out of your hotel room on the screen there.
Someone's just been doing me bed. Someone's yeah. So it's mad stuff. Mad stuff here is going on. Honestly, stuff in Russia. Honestly.
Sorry, radio listeners. I don't want to give you an image that you don't need. So we're talking to Kev, and it looks like a standard, suitably nice hotel. But someone just walked out the door carrying bed sheets. So that was the bloke doing your bed.
Well, do I tell you what he's done, right? So I was downstairs in reception.
Look, it's your privacy. You'd say as much as you're comfortable with.
Let me tell you this, what he's done, right? So the lads come just before you came online before. So he came and knocked at the door, and they said to me downstairs, "Look, you've got 2 twin beds in your room. We're going to put them together and make you a nice big bed." I said, "Oh yeah, great." So I've come up to the room. So I've got the bed's been made up as a king bed as it is. Great. So what the fella's come up and done, now he's turned it back to 2 singles.
Oh, for God's
sake. So he's killed me. Well, it's amateur out here in Moscow. What can I say?
So this poor fella's come up and turned your king back into 2 singles.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to be. You're going to call reception in 10 minutes. He's going to be back up again.
Joe, only you do that. I wouldn't act like a diva and do that. No, I wouldn't do that. No. You know that wouldn't be the case.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.